many people, and Brenda learned more about this with Lorraine Driscoll. Let's take a look.
Hello. Today I'm very pleased to say I have Lorraine Driscoll here, and she's an educational therapist and nutritionist. And you know, it's an area that I've been wanting to speak about for a long time, having worked with children in the teaching area, kind of tutoring, I should say. So I'd like to ask you first off, Lorraine, what is the difference between a weak reader and a reading disability or dyslexia?
So I should start off by saying that a reading disability or dyslexia is essentially the same thing. But to go back to a weak reader is someone who really just needs extra practice in terms of, practicing reading, practicing their phonics and all that type of stuff. And they might have missed school because of a lot of illnesses, because they were sick a lot. There might be some difficulties at home that they weren't able to, practice a lot of extra reading and so forth, like other kids doing their nightly homework and reading and so forth.
Yeah.
And so that's the main difference. Whereas someone who has a true reading disability or dyslexia is reading and continuing to read just like their peers in terms of the amount of time, but they're showing little improvement, and they tend to fall further and further behind every single year. So that's the main difference between a weak reader and someone who has a reading disability. And so someone who has a reading disability has weak connections. There's a reason why their brain isn't processing information in the same way as someone who's more fluent as a reader. And I should also mention that we tend to have a stereotypical view of dyslexia as letter reversals, that they write back, they're going to possibly write certain letters backwards and so forth. And I think that's unfortunate, because actually that's only about a 10% of the population of dyslexics do that. There's a much larger population that have all kinds of other issues related to reading, and it might even be something just related to reading comprehension. So those are the main differences.
So it's quite a spectrum, and you have to, and so yes, and a weak reader it can cover many areas, I guess.
Right.
And as you say, but what are the reasons for breakdown when someone has a reading disorder? What do you think would be some of the reasons?
So there's three main reasons. You could dive really far into it, but if you're kind of saying in a nutshell, the main one is a phonemic deficit. So that's basically where someone doesn't have the same phonemic awareness as someone who's
phonics,
fluent. That's right. Yeah, sorry, I should clarify that.
That's okay, no.
A phoneme is basically the smallest sound particle of a word. And so someone who has a phonemic deficit has a hard time blending sounds together to form a word. And so one of the reasons that could happen, it's one small reason, it doesn't mean it's the only reason, but if children have had a lot of ear infections, that can actually has been found to be one of the definitely contributing factor.
I can see where that could be, I think.
Yeah. So I hear that a lot from parents who come into my office, that they did have a lot of ear infections. And then there's all kinds of other reasons that have to do with brain development and so forth. So that's one reason. Another reason why someone might have dyslexia or reading disability is that they have poor eye tracking, eye teaming, or what are called saccadic eye movements. So they might go to their optometrist, and the optometrist might say you have 20/20 vision, everything is great, and it's totally true. But when it comes to their ability to kind of track, like one of the assessments I do in my office is I have them follow, basically it's like a pen across, and you'll see that they're having a really hard time. And sometimes they're able to do it for a few sessions, but then they start to get they start rubbing their eyes start watering, and they start losing that ability to do that. And then eye teaming is the ability for their eyes to converge and diverge. And so you can see how if you're having difficulty with that, you are going to have difficulty, words are going to blur, move, be reversed. And you can't ask these kids if that happens, because they don't even know if that, to them that's normal.
Yes.
So often when I work with kids and then we do correct that, then they say, whoa, I didn't know that it was not normal for words to be moving around on a page or for words to be blurry. So, and then of course the other reason is reading comprehension. And that's one of the biggest reasons I find parents come to see me, their child's 14 years old, they say, he can read, he doesn't have dyslexia, but he has very poor reading comprehension. He has no idea what he read.
I've come across that when I was working with children too, and adults sometimes too.
Right. So that is actually also falls under the definition of dyslexia, because obviously we read for a purpose, we read for meaning. And so if we can decode but we have no idea what we're reading, it's because that child is using all of its working memory and concentration to blend sound parcels together, to deal with the poor eye tracking and eye teaming.
I know.
And so imagine trying to do two to three things at once.
At once. And because I know we were told we have about a minute left, Lorraine, in this segment. I think we probably should do another one. But anyway, yes, and we were often told that, to learn the words is kind of like a skill, but the comprehension is, if they have trouble with comprehension, and you can expand on that. I mean, you already have, but it's hard. I think, with the comprehension.
Yeah, it definitely. That's the purpose to reading, right? That's what creates the joy of reading, is being able to understand.
Yes, to understand what you've read, and it's so important. I think we'll end this segment, Lorraine, and we'll come back and talk about in maybe another segment. We will have another segment in the signs and the things that parents can do to help.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
International